Hi guys, welcome back to the Business Analyst's Playbook. If you're a business analyst, or just someone who's constantly dealing with challenging people at work, then you're 100% in the right place. Today, we're tackling a topic that every BA and working individual has to face at some point in their career: difficult stakeholders. These clearly aren't the stakeholders who actually respond to emails on time, provide clear feedback on requirements or business initiatives, and actively help the project move forward. I'm talking about the ones who make you question every career decision you've ever made. I know, exactly who I mean. Someone probably just popped into your head the moment I mentioned difficult stakeholders. They're typically the ones who never respond to pretty much any form of communication ever, but then appear out of nowhere at the last minute with unrealistic demands, and usually after everything has been signed off. But here's the thing, right? As frustrating as these stakeholders are, they're actually making you a better business analyst. That's right, I just said it, and you just heard it. I know, it's hard to believe when you're staring at a passive-aggressive email at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday, riddled with thinly veiled criticism and unrealistic demands. Or when a stakeholder blindsides you in a meeting with last-minute changes that contradict everything agreed upon weeks ago. But here's the thing. Difficult stakeholders aren't just obstacles. They're opportunities in disguise. They force you to sharpen your communication skills, whether it's mastering the art of tactful responses, managing expectations, or diffusing tense situations. They push you to think strategically, balancing diplomacy with assertiveness to navigate shifting priorities and competing interests. Most importantly, they prepare you for leadership. Because let's be real, whether you're leading a project, a team, or an entire organization, you'll encounter difficult personalities at every level. Learning how to handle them with confidence and professionalism now is an investment in your future success. So, grab a can of Red Bull, take a deep breath, and let's break down all the different types of difficult stakeholders there are out there in the wild. The skeptic, the relentless questioner. The skeptic questions everything. They are naturally resistant to change, always demanding data, and refusing to take anything at face value. Even when the entire team reaches a consensus, they will be the first to push back, asking for more proof and challenging assumptions. Their skepticism isn't always negative. It can prevent groupthink and highlight blind spots, but it often slows progress and frustrates those who prefer to move forward without endless debate. How to handle a skeptic. When dealing with the skeptic, preparation is key. They are more likely to engage when presented with facts, data, and logical reasoning rather than vague assurances. Anticipating their concerns in advance and addressing them proactively can reduce friction. Instead of dismissing their doubts, acknowledge their need for validation and guide the conversation toward constructive problem solving. Providing case studies, historical examples, or industry benchmarks can help build trust and move discussions forward. How they make you better. Working with the skeptic forces you to sharpen your arguments and back up your ideas with solid evidence. Their relentless questioning pushes you to think critically, refine your reasoning, and ensure that your decisions are well supported. Over time, you will develop a habit of anticipating objections, strengthening your ability to influence and persuade others effectively. While their resistance can be frustrating, their scrutiny ultimately leads to better informed decisions and stronger strategies. It's also helpful to anticipate their objections ahead of time. Before presenting your proposal, think through the reasons they might push back and have responses ready. This makes you look prepared and confident, which increases your credibility. The know-it-all, the unshakable authority. The know-it-all believes they have all the answers. They dominate discussions, dismiss input from others, and rarely acknowledge new ideas, unless they can take credit for them. Their confidence can sometimes be an asset, but their unwillingness to consider alternative perspectives often stifles collaboration and innovation. When presented with new information, they may brush it aside unless it aligns with their pre-existing beliefs. How to handle a know-it-all. Rather than challenging them outright, it's often more effective to acknowledge their expertise while guiding the conversation toward collaboration. Instead of shutting down their ideas with direct opposition, try validating their perspective before introducing an alternative. Saying something like, "I see where you're coming from. Let's build on that idea and explore how we can refine it further," makes them feel recognized while opening the door for discussion. Another effective approach is to ask open-ended questions that encourage them to think critically. Rather than presenting your idea as a counterpoint, phrase it as an invitation to collaborate. "What do you think about this alternative? Would that fit into your approach?" This subtle shift prevents them from feeling corrected and instead makes them feel like they are actively contributing to the solution. If they remain stubborn, leveraging peer validation can be a useful strategy. Referencing insights from other respected leaders, industry experts, or well-regarded sources can make them more receptive to considering new perspectives. When they see that a trusted authority supports an idea, they may be more willing to engage with it. How they make you better. Navigating conversations with the know-it-all sharpens your negotiation skills, teaching you how to work effectively with strong personalities. Their resistance challenges you to master the art of influence, a critical leadership skill that helps you frame ideas in a way that fosters collaboration rather than confrontation. Over time, you become adept at steering discussions productively, ensuring that even the most stubborn voices contribute to meaningful dialogue rather than shutting it down. The micromanager, the relentless overseer. The micromanager thrives on control, obsessing over every detail of a project and struggling to delegate tasks. Their inability to let go often slows progress, creating bottlenecks as they insist on reviewing every step. Rather than trusting their team, they hover over every decision, making it difficult for others to work independently. While their attention to detail can sometimes be beneficial, their constant interference can lead to frustration, inefficiency, and a lack of autonomy among their team members. How to handle a micromanager. The best way to manage a micromanager is to stay ahead of their concerns by proactively providing structured updates. When they feel informed, they are less likely to interfere. Setting up a recurring weekly report that outlines progress, key decisions, and upcoming steps can help satisfy their need for oversight without unnecessary disruptions. Establishing boundaries is also crucial. If they start demanding excessive check-ins, politely but firmly remind them of the agreed-upon communication plan. A response like, "I'll provide a full update on Friday, but let me know if there's anything specific you need before then," reassures them while keeping unnecessary interruptions at bay. This approach gives them a sense of control without derailing your workflow. If they continue to push for excessive oversight, redirect their focus to higher-level priorities. Instead of allowing them to get lost in the minutiae, ask for their input on strategic decisions rather than execution details. This subtle shift helps move their attention away from micromanaging day-to-day tasks and encourages them to focus on leadership-level concerns where their expertise is better utilized. How they make you better. Dealing with a micromanager forces you to become highly organized and structured in your communication. Their constant oversight teaches you how to set clear expectations and document progress effectively. You also develop assertiveness in setting boundaries, an essential skill in any professional setting. Over time, you learn how to manage upward, a valuable ability that helps you work efficiently with senior stakeholders and navigate complex workplace dynamics with confidence. The indecisive one, the hesitant decision maker. The indecisive stakeholder constantly hesitates, overthinks, and struggles to commit to a course of action. Their uncertainty can stall progress, create bottlenecks, and frustrate the entire team. Even when presented with clear information, they second-guess themselves, fearing the consequences of making the wrong choice. Their indecision often stems from a desire for perfection, a fear of accountability, or a tendency to seek endless validation before committing to a decision. How to handle the indecisive one. To keep things moving, it's essential to limit their choices. Instead of overwhelming them with 5 or 6 possibilities, narrow it down to 2 or 3 well-defined options, each with clear pros and cons. Decision paralysis often arises from too many possibilities, so simplifying their options makes it easier for them to commit. Establishing firm deadlines is also crucial. Without a clear time frame, they will continue to push the decision down the road. Framing the deadline as part of the project timeline helps provide structure and urgency. A direct but supportive approach, such as, "We need to finalize this by Thursday so we can stay on track. Let me know your thoughts by then," can keep them accountable while reducing unnecessary delays. Since their indecision is often rooted in fear of making the wrong choice, providing reassurance can help them feel more confident. Offering data, comparisons, and expert opinions can reinforce that the risks are minimal or manageable. Sometimes they simply need confirmation that they are making a reasonable choice, so reinforcing their decision with logical support can help ease their anxiety. How they make you better. Navigating indecisive stakeholders strengthens your ability to frame decisions effectively, ensuring that choices are made efficiently. You develop persuasive skills, learning how to guide hesitant individuals toward action without overwhelming them. Over time, you master the balance between patience and firmness, ensuring that projects stay on track while supporting stakeholders through the decision-making process. Ghost the elusive stakeholder. The ghost is the stakeholder who vanishes when you need them the most. They miss meetings, ignore emails, and fail to provide critical input, only to resurface at the last minute with demands. Their absence can create major roadblocks, forcing teams to move forward without their feedback, only for them to reappear unexpectedly and insist on last-minute changes. Their unpredictability makes project timelines unstable and forces teams to scramble to accommodate their delayed input. How to handle the ghost. Dealing with a ghost requires persistence and adaptability. Since they tend to ignore traditional communication channels, it's important to reach out in multiple ways. If emails go unanswered, try Slack, Microsoft Teams, or a direct phone call. Some stakeholders respond better to quick, direct conversations rather than sifting through long email chains. Finding their preferred method of communication increases the chances of keeping them engaged. Setting clear expectations from the start can also help minimize their disappearing act. Let them know exactly when their input is required and what the consequences will be if they miss key deadlines. If they understand that their lack of response could lead to decisions being made without them, they may be more motivated to stay involved. If they continue to ghost you, documentation becomes your best defense. Keep a written record of all requests for feedback, key decision points, and their lack of response. That way, when they suddenly reappear with last-minute demands, you can refer back to previous communications and reinforce the established timeline. Having a clear history of attempts to engage them helps prevent unnecessary project disruptions and holds them accountable for their absence. How they make you better. Working with a ghost sharpens your ability to follow up proactively, ensuring that critical decisions aren't left in limbo. You develop resilience in handling last-minute changes without allowing them to derail the project. Over time, you become an expert in managing stakeholder accountability by maintaining clear documentation and reinforcing structured communication. Their unpredictability teaches you how to navigate uncertainty with confidence and control. The aggressor, the dominant force. The aggressor thrives on conflict, using a loud and confrontational approach to dominate discussions and dismiss opposing viewpoints. They rely on sheer force of personality to push their agenda, often making others feel steamrolled in meetings and negotiations. Their aggressive nature can create a tense atmosphere, stifling collaboration and discouraging open dialogue. While their confidence and decisiveness can sometimes drive action, their combative style often leads to unnecessary friction and power struggles. How to handle the aggressor. The key to managing an aggressor is to avoid mirroring their intensity. Matching their energy will only escalate the conflict, so it's essential to remain calm, composed, and focused on the facts. If they raise their voice, keep yours steady. If they attempt to provoke an argument, shift the discussion toward problem solving rather than confrontation. Their aggression thrives on reaction, so refusing to engage emotionally helps neutralize their dominance. Using assertive but neutral language can also help de-escalate tension while keeping the conversation productive. Instead of saying, "You're being unreasonable," a more effective approach would be, "I understand your concerns. Let's go through this step by step to find a resolution." This phrasing acknowledges their frustrations without validating their aggression and steers the conversation toward a constructive outcome. When their behavior becomes genuinely disruptive, setting clear boundaries is necessary. Politely but firmly remind them that discussions need to remain professional and solution-focused. If their aggression continues to derail progress, involving a neutral third party, such as a senior leader or mediator, can help reestablish a balanced and respectful dialogue. Ensuring that discussions stay structured and focused prevents them from overpowering the conversation. How they make you better. Handling an aggressor strengthens your conflict resolution skills, an essential competency in any leadership role. Their confrontational nature teaches you how to remain composed under pressure, ensuring that discussions remain productive rather than devolving into power struggles. Over time, you develop the ability to manage high-intensity stakeholder relationships with confidence, maintaining control of conversations without being intimidated or overpowered. By learning how to redirect their energy toward meaningful solutions, you become more effective at navigating difficult personalities in the workplace. The political player, the master of office maneuvering. The political player is more focused on personal agendas, power struggles, and internal influence than on the success of the project. Their decisions are driven by what benefits them or their department, rather than what's best for the team or organization. They thrive on alliances, back-channel conversations, and strategic positioning, often prioritizing optics over outcomes. While they may appear supportive on the surface, their true loyalties lie in advancing their own interests. How to handle the political player. Working effectively with a political player requires understanding their motivations. Are they seeking visibility and recognition? Are they protecting their team's resources? Are they positioning themselves for a promotion? Identifying what drives them allows you to align your project goals with their personal interests, increasing the likelihood of their cooperation. If they see a direct benefit for themselves, they are more likely to lend their support rather than obstruct progress. Transparency is key when dealing with someone who operates behind the scenes. Political players may attempt to manipulate discussions, twist narratives, or shift blame to serve their agenda. Keeping communications clear and well documented through meeting notes, email summaries, and formal agreements prevents them from distorting facts or undermining decisions. A well-documented trail ensures accountability and protects your work from being misrepresented. Building strong relationships with multiple stakeholders is another essential strategy. If a political player tries to sway decisions in their favor, having support from other team members can serve as a counterbalance to their influence. By fostering broad alliances, you reduce their ability to control the narrative and ensure that project decisions are made based on merit rather than internal politics. How they make you better. Navigating political players sharpens your ability to handle office dynamics without getting entangled in unnecessary drama. You develop stakeholder diplomacy, learning how to align project objectives with personal interests while maintaining integrity. Over time, you become skilled at building alliances that protect your work from political maneuvering, ensuring that decisions remain focused on outcomes rather than personal agendas. By mastering the art of managing workplace politics, you strengthen your ability to lead in complex organizational environments. The overpromiser, the unrealistic optimist. The overpromiser is quick to agree to ambitious deadlines and unrealistic expectations, either because they genuinely believe it's possible or because they want to please stakeholders. Their enthusiasm can be contagious, but their inability to recognize practical limitations often leads to missed deadlines, rushed work, and frustrated teams. They tend to underestimate challenges, overestimate resources, and assume that everything will go according to plan without considering potential roadblocks. How to handle the overpromiser. The most effective way to manage an overpromiser is to push for specifics. Instead of accepting their optimistic commitments at face value, ask detailed questions that force them to think critically about feasibility. Questions like, what resources do we have to meet this deadline? Or has this been done before in a similar time frame? Encourage them to consider the practical realities of their promises. By making them articulate a clear path to delivery, you help expose gaps in their assumptions before they become major issues. Using historical data is another powerful way to challenge unrealistic expectations. If a previous project took 6 months and they claim a similar initiative can be completed in 2, presenting past timelines and performance data can provide a reality check. Numbers are difficult to argue with, and showing concrete examples of previous project durations makes it harder for them to ignore the risks of overpromising. If they continue to commit to unattainable goals, documenting everything becomes essential. Written confirmation of their commitments ensures accountability and provides a record when deadlines inevitably need to be adjusted. When expectations start to unravel, having a paper trail allows you to reinforce earlier discussions and push for necessary timeline or scope adjustments without being blamed for the delays. How they make you better. Working with an overpromiser sharpens your ability to manage expectations effectively, ensuring that commitments are grounded in realistic assessments rather than wishful thinking. You develop the skill of using data to challenge impractical deadlines and influence more achievable project timelines. Over time, you become adept at negotiating scope, deadlines, and resource allocation, ensuring that quality work is delivered without pushing teams into burnout. Their habit of overcommitting forces you to become a stronger advocate for realistic planning and sustainable execution. The naysayer, the eternal pessimist. The naysayer is quick to dismiss new ideas, responding with skepticism and negativity rather than constructive feedback. Their default response is, "That'll never work," but they rarely provide viable alternatives. They focus on obstacles rather than possibilities, making it difficult to push forward with innovation or change. While their caution can sometimes highlight real risks, their persistent negativity can stall progress, demotivate teams, and create an environment where new ideas are shut down before they're fully explored. How to handle the naysayer. The most effective way to manage a naysayer is to flip the script and challenge them to contribute rather than just criticize. Instead of allowing them to shut down ideas, ask direct questions that force them to engage in problem solving. Questions like, "What do you think would work instead?" Or, "How would you approach this differently?" Shift the focus from rejection to contribution. If they truly believe an idea won't work, they should be able to suggest a more viable alternative. When they continue to say no without offering anything useful, redirect the conversation towards solutions. Acknowledging their concerns while emphasizing problem solving helps balance their skepticism with forward momentum. A response like, "Yes, that's a valid concern, but here's how we're mitigating it," acknowledges potential risks while reinforcing proactive steps to address them. This approach keeps discussions productive rather than allowing negativity to stall decision-making. How they make you better. Dealing with a naysayer strengthens your ability to navigate resistance and push ideas forward despite opposition. You become more skilled at reframing objections, turning criticism into constructive discussions. Over time, you develop a more strategic approach to stakeholder management, ensuring that risks are acknowledged without letting fear of failure paralyze progress. Their constant skepticism forces you to think critically, refine your ideas, and strengthen your ability to advocate for well-thought-out solutions. Hopefully, as I go through these different types of difficult stakeholders, you can reflect on past experiences and identify some stakeholders you worked with previously who fit into some of the categories. However, the next are probably the ones that I have encountered the most and are the most challenging to work with. The passive-aggressive one. the master of indirect resistance. The passive-aggressive one appears agreeable on the surface, but subtly resists behind the scenes. They nod along in meetings, seemingly on board with decisions, but their compliance is often laced with sarcasm, reluctance, or half-hearted commitment. Their resistance is rarely direct, making it difficult to address head-on. Instead, they engage in silent sabotage by delaying tasks, conveniently forgetting responsibilities, or deliberately misinterpreting instructions. Their dissatisfaction often surfaces through backhanded comments, veiled criticisms, or humor that carries an undercurrent of resentment. When confronted about their lack of follow-through, they shift the blame, positioning themselves as victims with statements like, "I was just doing what I was told." How to handle the passive-aggressive one. The best way to deal with a passive-aggressive stakeholder is to be direct but diplomatic. If you notice a disconnect between what they agreed to and what they are actually doing, address it professionally and factually. A simple statement like, "I noticed we agreed on X, but I'm seeing Y. Can we clarify how we're moving forward?" forces them to acknowledge the discrepancy without escalating tension. By framing the conversation around alignment rather than accusation, you encourage accountability without giving them room to play the victim. Creating a culture of transparency can also help minimize passive-aggressive behavior. When individuals feel safe expressing concerns openly, they are less likely to resist in the background. Encouraging honest discussions about challenges, uncertainties, or frustrations makes it easier to surface and resolve issues before they turn into hidden roadblocks. Regular check-ins that invite input and feedback can also help bring any unspoken resistance into the open, preventing it from festering into subtle sabotage. How they make you better. Navigating passive-aggressive behavior sharpens your ability to read between the lines, strengthening your political awareness and emotional intelligence. You become more skilled at uncovering hidden resistance, learning to address it in a way that keeps discussions productive rather than confrontational. Over time, you develop a refined approach to fostering open communication within teams, ensuring that concerns are raised and resolved constructively rather than being buried under a veneer of false agreement. And finally, my all-time favorite difficult stakeholder to deal with, Mr. Teflon, the responsibility dodger. Mr. Teflon is an expert at sidestepping accountability. No matter the situation, nothing ever seems to stick to them. When things go wrong, they always have an excuse, a scapegoat, or a way to shift the blame onto someone else. They are quick to distance themselves from problems, often feigning ignorance or claiming they were never informed. While they may be the first to disappear when responsibility is being assigned, they are just as quick to reappear when there's credit to claim, subtly positioning themselves as contributors despite having done little to nothing. How to handle Mr. Teflon. The most effective way to deal with Mr. Teflon is to create an indisputable paper trail. If they verbally commit to something, follow up immediately with an email summarizing the discussion. A written record ensures that they cannot later deny involvement or twist the facts to suit their narrative. Clear documentation prevents them from rewriting history and holds them accountable for their commitments. Setting clear roles and responsibilities up front is essential. Every assignment should be explicitly documented in project plans, meeting notes, and emails to eliminate ambiguity. If responsibilities are vague, Mr. Teflon will exploit the gaps, claiming the task was never theirs to begin with. Clearly defining expectations makes it much harder for them to slip through the cracks. When they attempt to deflect responsibility, redirect the conversation firmly and factually. A simple but effective response like, "As per our last discussion, this was your area. What's the next step?" forces them to acknowledge their role without providing an easy escape route. Keeping the discussion solution-focused rather than accusatory prevents unnecessary conflict while reinforcing accountability. Anticipating their tactics can also help minimize the damage. Assigning clear deadlines, deliverables, and check-ins ensures that their lack of follow-through is caught early rather than becoming a crisis at the last minute. If they try to push their work onto you or someone else, setting firm boundaries is crucial. Politely but firmly reinforcing that the responsibility remains with them prevents you from being burdened with their tasks. How they make you better. Navigating a workplace with a Mr. Teflon teaches you how to protect yourself through meticulous documentation and clear communication. You develop a keen ability to structure responsibilities within a team, ensuring that tasks are assigned and tracked in a way that leaves no room for evasion. Over time, you become highly skilled at preventing last-minute blame games, ensuring that accountability is distributed fairly, and that no one can rewrite the narrative to escape responsibility. Remember, difficult stakeholders aren't obstacles, they're opportunities in disguise. Each skeptic, micromanager, and aggressor you encounter challenges you to refine your communication, strengthen your strategic thinking, and develop resilience under pressure. Every frustrating interaction is sharpening your ability to navigate complex dynamics, influence without authority, and lead with confidence. Instead of seeing them as roadblocks, recognize them as your training ground for mastering workplace diplomacy. The skills you gain from handling tough personalities will serve you well in every project, negotiation, and leadership role you take on. So the next time you're facing a difficult stakeholder, take a deep breath, keep your composure, and remind yourself you're becoming sharper, stronger, and more effective with every interaction. And if all else fails, there's always coffee. Lots and lots of coffee. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share your craziest stakeholder stories in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, stay strong, stay strategic, and keep being an awesome BA.